Well, we know that we live in a water-scarce country. It's a problem compounded by inadequate water management, corruption and ailing infrastructure. The handling of the situation in Nelson Mandela Bay municipality recently is a case in point where residents were advised to boil their tap water as the metro could not guarantee it was safe to drink. Also, as the Water Affairs Minister highlighting today, we have companies that have polluted the water through years of mining and other industries. So where does that leave us, not only today, but with a view to the future, with water becoming an ever more precious resource? I'm joined now by Dr Shafick Adams, Executive Manager of Water Resources and Ecosystems at the Water Research Commission. Good evening, Dr Adams. World Water Day, I suppose, is a really good opportunity to sort of take stock. Let's start with the water coming out of our taps. We used to be known in South Africa as a country with the best, among the best tap water in the world. Can we still lay claim to that today?
Hi, Sally. Yes, I think we still can. And with any country in the world now and then have supply challenges, but for the bulk water systems that's coming from our bulk water treatment works, it's still some of the best in the world. And that I would not hesitate to drink out of a tap myself.
Well, that's good to hear. Of course, that is good to hear, because we hear about what happened in Nelson Mandela Bay recently, where the mayor told the citizens, start boiling your drinking water because it's not safe to drink, partly due to the drought, but mostly as well due to bad management. How much are we making the problem of our water supply worse by not handling it correctly?
Yeah, indeed, and I think that's part of the challenge, is that often the water provisioning is fragmented. So you have different spheres of government involved in it. You have different entities dealing with water provisioning, especially at the very local level. But that is part of what Minister Mtunu is trying to fix at the moment, is to bring the water resources side, which the Department of Water and Sanitation is doing fairly well, but also to start looking at the water services side and get a bit more involved in that. And I think his pronouncements today and over the last few months is exactly that, is to sort out that gap and to get these two institutions or institutes to work better together.
We've seen how at Eskom neglecting aging infrastructure, not doing repairs on time, have caused massive problems and ultimately cost the consumers and government as a whole more in the long run. We know that water infrastructure is similarly badly affected. Are you confident that that's now being properly addressed, even at local level, with some municipalities just seeming not to understand how important this issue is?
You know, I think it's been addressed, and again, at the operational level, which I'm not that qualified to speak about, but the minister, and again, there are different mechanisms, and one of the mechanisms that is being introduced and will be looked at is what they call the no-drop system. So, and again, to evaluate different municipalities in terms of the water losses.
All right.
So we have the tools and the plans, and then I think there is also the energy to fix this, because, as you say, in the long run, it does seem to cost more.
So the Water Research, the Water Research Commission, which you're part of, the vision is to use science and tech to make the right decisions about our water resources, also inform policy and decision making. Talk to us about what needs to change quickly to preserve our water.
Yeah, I think it should be a multi-pronged approach, and as the minister also said over the last few days, is that it's not just government's responsibility, it's each one of us. I mean, we're still one of the highest per capita water users in the world, so as an individual, we tend to be wasteful. But also, I think that the bringing to closer the cooperation between the water resources side and the water services side will remedy a lot of these issues institutionally. And today is groundwater, making groundwater visible. And then that's the UN Water team. And that is a good example of how poorly. We've capacitated, for example, municipalities that rely on groundwater either as a conjunctive use, meaning they use surface and groundwater, or sole source supply from groundwater, where they often do not have the technical capacity or the groundwater skills to manage these things.
Which is the VADOS zone. It's all quite complicated, but just explain it really simply to me.
Yeah, so the groundwater essentially is that all water that's stored underground in our aquifers. So our aquifers are our water-bearing formations. So the best way to explain it, if you think about three lines, the top line being the surface, the middle line being the water table, and say, for example, the bottom line being the bottom of a bedrock. So everything that's below the water table from the second line down in saturated formations, and as we abstract it, or it emerges as in springs and so forth in river, that's what we call groundwater, and it's in often cases, or in most cases, is the freshwater part of that water stored in the aquifers. Why is it important? Because in South Africa we've been underutilizing it. So our total supply of groundwater only is about 13% of the overall water supply in this country. So there is what we like to call fat in the system to produce more groundwater to meet some of our emerging water demands. But also think of it as if we, and we kind of world leaders in some cases around us, is that if we take excess surface waters, I mean, if it rains a lot and we can't store and it runs off to the sea, we can store them underground. It has two benefits. We can then save it for later during droughts. It is then switched off from evaporation or evapotranspiration. So, and it then also has no capital costs to build a dam. So what we use, our aquifers are like underground storage reservoirs. And to your point around the VADO zone is that remember that the three lines, so above the water table, that's the VADO zone. So this is part of the research that we've been doing at the Water Research Commission and making that a niche area, because it is a neglected component of our groundwater systems, because it is the buffer between, as you said, it rains, it infiltrates, and it percolates towards groundwater. In these zones, it can assist with filtration in our fractured systems. If we don't understand them, it is a shortcut for pollutants to our precious groundwater resources. But also it has, if you think, for example, in dolomitic terrain, the formation of sinkholes and the like. So it's very important to understand that. And today we've invested around 10 years with world-leading research in this domain, and we've just launched a practical how-to guideline for the world to use.
Can you, in 30 seconds, explain this practical guideline?
Yeah, so what it does, it for engineers or land use planners, so if they look at it and then they can better understand, looking at the conditions or the characteristics of the area which they want to develop, is it highly vulnerable? Is it, if we, for example, have leaky pipes and so forth over dolomitic terrain, will it lead to the formation of sinkholes, etc., but also land stability issues, and of course, as I said previously, the buffer to protecting our aquifers, that layer on top of the water table.
All right, thank you so much for chatting to us about that. Dr. Shafick Adams, Executive Manager of Water Resources and Ecosystems at the Water Research Commission. So there's so much innovation going on around looking at how we can access our water better. But if it's not treated properly at local level, then we're going to waste a lot of it. Really interesting discussion. All right, now